Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Alicia. I post new tutorials every Thursday, primarily on tumblers. Sometimes I do something extra like pens or clipboards or bad reels or something. So when you get done watching this video, jump back on and check out some of my other cool videos. But in this week, I am going to show you how to achieve this look. It is so simple. You're not going to believe how simple this is to do. So if you're interested to see how I achieve this look, stick around and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so I am working with a 20-ounce skinny straight by Mica, and as you can see, I started, as I always do, by sanding, wiping with 91% alcohol, and then spray painting. The color is ivory on this one. And so I am going to use the tack it method to apply my mica powders. And so that's how I'm getting the color underneath. Is I'm using Glitter Makes It 5 colors, and I will show you that. But first I just want to focus on the tack it method. So if you're not familiar with it, it is Aleene's Tack It Over and Over. It goes on white and dries clear and tacky, and that's what we want. We want our surface to be tacky to put our mica powders on. So I do let this dry for 10 to 15 minutes. You can speed it up with a heat gun or a blow dryer, but make sure it is completely dry because you don't want your mica powders clumping up on you. Also, I do mix a tiny bit of water in with my Aleene's Tack It Over and Over when I'm working on a larger surface like a cup. You don't have to. You can use it straight out of the bottle, but I find that I like to water it down just a hair. It's personal preference. Some people do 50-50. I just dip my brush, as you could see earlier, in a cup of water, and that was all that I used. Also, I only do one coat. Some people do 2 coats of Tack It. I only do 1. So now after this dries for 10 to 15 minutes or however long you want to let it dry, I am going to start applying my mica powders. So if you're not familiar with working with mica powders, it's super fine powder and it creates a lot of sparkly or shimmery dust around your area. So you may want to wear a dusk mask if you feel like you're going to be using a lot, and you may not want to inhale this, so that's, perfectly okay. And I am going to apply these using a soft bristle brush. I'm just going to go randomly around the cup and just blot it on in like circles. And I will blow the excess off. Whatever will fall off, some of the excess will get, it will stay on the cup, and that's okay because you can see from my beginning credits, and you'll see in the end, that the vinyl that I use over top of it just makes everything blend really nicely. So I'm just going to put some iMovie music on until I finish this. I don't want to speed too much through this process because I want you to see how I applied this. All right, so now that I got that all on, there is no dry time, which is awesome. I am going to give this 2 coats of Rust-Oleum's 2x gloss clear before I go and put on my first coat of epoxy. And so I mixed up 20 mLs of epoxy, and I am going to give this pretty much a nice good coat. That's kind of a lot for this, but I want to make sure I get a nice good thick coat. And there's no glitter on here to make it lumpy, so it should be perfectly smooth. So I'm just going to apply it using a gloved hand, and I like to do it that way because I can feel if there are dry spots or thick spots or thin spots. Some people use a silicone brush. It's completely up to you what you want to use, but I prefer the gloved hand, and that's what you'll always see me using. And so I just want to point out, don't overwork your epoxy because it will create bubbles. Once I'm done getting a nice even coat, I'm going to go ahead and torch it for bubbles and let this spin for 4 hours because I did use a quick set epoxy. All right, so now here comes the hard part for me anyway. So, putting the micas on was like nice and easy. So now I'm going to do a full cup wrap. And so I have this vinyl that I ordered from Amazon, and I absolutely love it because it is clear with these holographic leopard spots on it. So it came in a 12 by 12 sheet. So I'm measuring it out and cutting it to size. So my cup was like 9.5 by 8. So most of the skinny straights are around 8 inches tall and then around like 9.5 inches width. And so this wasn't much wider because there's no glitter and epoxy on there. So I think that's about the size, but go ahead and measure your cup to size. And so I want to get it almost exactly perfect. I definitely don't want overhang on the top or the bottom. I have such a hard time trimming vinyl from my tops and my bottoms, and I wind up ruining my vinyl. And I really need to practice, and maybe I just need a different craft knife. I don't know what it is. So for me, I want to cut it to size. If you are really successful with trimming your vinyl up at the top of the cup, go ahead and absolutely do so. But for this, I decided no, I was going to do a full wrap, cut it to size, and I'm going to apply it using the wet method. And so the wet method is when you spray it down with Windex. And so I'm going to stop right now, and I'm going to show you that this curled back up on me, and I had to unstick it from itself. So this was a big problem later on, because what happened was, if you can see on the right hand side, it kind of got crumpled, and I thought, well, let me put it on the cup anyway and see if it gives me a hard time. Well, it did. And so in the future, if I ever do that again, I basically ruined my vinyl. So please don't unravel like I did if this curls back on itself, because the way this vinyl is, it creased itself, so it's not very pliable. So back to the wet method. So the wet method is using Windex. I actually have professional grade vinyl liquid stuff that came with racing stripes that came for my car, so that's what I am using. But Windex is fine. A lot of people use Windex. And so applying vinyl by the wet method makes you be able to peel it up and put it back down many times to get it just right. And I fumbled with this for a while. As I always fumble with my cup wraps, I should really just know better. So I decided, I'm going to stand my cup up, I'm going to use a ruler, and I'm going to make marks on the cup so that I can, use, straight edge. That's it, straight edge. And put my sheet on using those marks so that I didn't fumble with pulling up and putting back down. So this worked out better for me. I should have just done this from the beginning. Oftentimes, if I'm doing a full cup wrap and I'm not doing the wet method, I will just peel a little bit off and get it measured up and then place it that way. And that's like another story for another day. So I'm going to apply this vinyl. And like I said, because it got creases from getting stuck to itself, I did not get a good lay on this cup, and I wound up trying to get all of the water bubbles out as I normally would with squeegeeing and stuff, but yeah, this wound up not working out. without bubbles. So I wound up getting bubbles, unfortunately. So guess what? Keeping the cup for myself because it's got some imperfections. So once you finally get that on, go ahead and squeegee it out with a squeegee or with a paper towel and let this dry for a couple of hours before you go in with your epoxy. But what I did was I squeegeed it out as much as I thought I could. I thought I got everything out, which I think I did, but because, like I said, the vinyl was compromised, there was some bubbles that I tried to get out later on with my craft knife by popping them like you do with, other vinyl, but this was definitely not a forgiving vinyl. All right, so here I am trying to pop some of these bubbles, and yeah, that didn't really work because, like I said, this vinyl isn't very forgiving. Although, I didn't try to take heat to it. Maybe if I took some heat to it, it would have worked out better. I might try that next time if I have an issue with this vinyl. I don't even want to call it vinyl because it's just so not forgiving. But I'm going to trim off. I had a little bit of excess. I'm going to use this metal edge ruler and my craft knife to trim off the overlap because it was overlapping to the point where I didn't care for it. So I just did that and trimmed that off. So here's something I don't show you often, but I'm using this pearlescent vinyl from HV Ront. I don't know. And so it comes with a cool sheet showing you the cutting settings. Now, the settings were a little bit different, so I'm just showing you here which settings I use. The holographic, that's it, the holographic setting to cut this out. And so I started to weed this and realized that there was a film overlay over top of this vinyl. So if you buy this vinyl, make sure you know that there is a clear film that comes off because it does screw up with the settings or the cutting. So I just showed you the rest of weeding this out. And then I use this to cut my next piece because I didn't want to take the film off the entire sheet. So I cut my next piece and you see that film coming off. There it is. So that then made it cut perfectly. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and weed with really relatively no issues. But, when I weed a big piece like this, I do use my scissors and kind of do it in pieces because I find that if you just do it too fast, especially with holographic, you can pull it up and screw up the whole thing. Ask me how I know. I've screwed up a lot of vinyl. So just take it slow, do it piece by piece when you're doing a larger thing. So I'm just going to speed this up and hyperspeed it. So I've got my decal, sort of sweet, sort of savage, with my offset, which was like 0.1 something. I'm not really sure. I'm going to go ahead and layer these off of the cup, and then I'm going to apply it right directly on top of that clear vinyl that I coated my cup with, covered my cup with the full vinyl wrap. You don't need epoxy over it. You can just put this right on top. You don't need to seal or any of that stuff. And so I'm just gonna center it. I'm gonna eyeball center it and get that placed on by pressing the center and then moving my thumbs out towards the edge, and that's how I apply this vinyl. Take off your transfer tape, and now this cup is ready for epoxy. I'm going to clean my cup with 91% alcohol and a coffee filter because coffee filters do not leave lint, paper towels do, and I don't want any lint on this. And I've been handling it with my hands, so that's why I'm cleaning it off the way I am. I mixed up 20 mLs of epoxy, and it took 2 final coats to finish this cup. So just get your coats on nice and even, and I will do a light sand after this coat at the top and the bottom because there is just like a tiny little, you can feel just the vinyl, just a little bit. This vinyl is pretty thick. So 20 ml of quick set epoxy sand, and then 20 mLs of regular set epoxy with UV protectant. Torch for bubbles, and then this cup is going to be done, and I will be back with my final remarks. All right, guys, this is done. I absolutely love the way this came out. This actually came out better than I expected. It is so super pretty, and when you think that it looks kind of spotty after you do it, this just ties everything in together. So I am absolutely in love with this. I will say though, I did get a bubble in here because I didn't squeegee out enough of the water. So I do have a bubble, so I will be keeping this for myself, which I'm not that unhappy about. So, and most people probably won't even see that, but because I know that's there, I won't part with this cup, but I certainly will make more and make sure that I get all of that water out. So, you know, that's the one thing about applying vinyl using the wet method is you do run the risk of having a bubble, especially with this clear, that you may miss. So just be aware of that. But other than that, that is it for this tutorial, guys. Please make sure you give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share, comment. I love to hear your feedback. Make sure you check out my Facebook group. It's a craft thing for posts that I do of stuff that I don't do tutorials on, as well as my Instagram. And make sure to check out Glitter Makes It Superstars page. They have fun giveaways every Sunday. So that is it, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye.